Major high court decisions today leading off our noon hour. From your student loan debt to LGBTQ protections and abortions. Here locally, abortions are still legal despite the Indiana Supreme Court just lifting an injunction that had kept a ban from taking effect. That's because a second case is still going through the courts. And that injunction is over a religious freedom lawsuit, which is expected to be heard in September. The Indiana ban, if it were to eventually take effect, would allow exceptions in cases of rape and incest before the 10th week of pregnancy and to protect the mother's life and physical health. It also allows them if the fetus is diagnosed with a lethal anomaly. Nationally, two major Supreme Court rulings within the last 2 hours. The justices just ruled against President Joe Biden's plan to wipe away your student loan debt and decided to allow certain businesses to refuse service to LGBTQ+ people. Here's ABC's M. Nguyen from the Supreme Court.
In a major Supreme Court decision impacting the LGBTQ+ community, justices ruled 6-3 in favor of an evangelical Christian web designer from Colorado who refused to work on same-sex weddings. The 6 conservatives on the court held the First Amendment right to free speech bars the state from forcing the plaintiff, Lori Smith, from creating designs with messages to which she disagrees. Colorado's anti-discrimination law prohibits discriminating against LGBTQ+ people and requires that any business that's open to the public must serve all equally. Smith claimed obeying that law would force her to endorse gay marriage and violate her First Amendment right.
A website is my canvas, and I cherish the freedom to express unique and custom messages that celebrate causes that I'm passionate about.
Justice Neil Gorsuch wrote that Colorado would seek to force Smith to defy her conscience about a matter of major significance. The dissent firing back with Justice Sonia Sotomayor writing, there has been a backlash to the movement for liberty and equality. New forms of inclusion have been met with reactionary exclusion. This is heartbreaking. And the Supreme Court also dealt a major defeat to the Biden administration, ruling against the president's student loan forgiveness program, which would have wiped out up to $20,000 in debt for millions of borrowers. The White House had approved the plan under the HEROES Act, but Republican states pushed back, accusing the administration of executive overreach. The court agreed with the states. A source within the White House says they strongly disagree with this ruling against Biden's student loan forgiveness plan, saying the president is not done fighting yet. At the Supreme Court, M. Nguyen, ABC News.
Yesterday, we learned the Supreme Court's conservative majority struck down affirmative action policies at Harvard and University of North Carolina. The 6-3 ruling effectively ends race as a consideration in college admissions nationwide. Here in Kentuckiana, major universities like U of L, Bellarmine, and UK are promising to still prioritize diversity on campus. We spoke with Dr. Ricky Jones, a professor of Pan-African Studies over at U of L and a critic of the university on its diversity record.
The question is, what is Black America going to do? How are we going to respond to this? Because the message that we're getting in a lot of these places that neither we nor our children are really welcome in these spaces. So there's just a chilling effect. This isn't just concerning, it's terrifying.
A statement from Indiana University says it has long believed the strongest learning environments equip students to learn from those with wide-ranging viewpoints and diverse backgrounds that may differ from their own. Other schools like Bellarmine and UK say they are still looking over the details of that decision. Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron, meanwhile, supports the ruling, saying it reaffirms what the American dream is all about, the promise of freedom and equal treatment for all without regard to race. And Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell also issued a statement following the Supreme Court's decision, saying for decades the court turned a blind eye as higher education prioritized illegal social engineering over merit. Today's ruling makes clear that colleges may not continue discriminating against bright and ambitious students based on the color of their skin. The mom of the 1-year-old girl who died from a fentanyl overdose broke her silence this week. The man she says was responsible is now behind bars. Christopher Van Meter was arrested yesterday and charged with manslaughter, trafficking controlled substances, and wanton endangerment. Van Meter's daughter, Cameron Faye, died on April 6 from fentanyl intoxication just days after her first birthday. She was staying at her father's home in Mount Washington at the time. Cameron's mom says Van Meter struggled with drug addiction.
Took a baby. You took my baby. You took her life. I just don't feel like you can take a baby's life and then you get out and live yours.
Van Meter is expected in court on July 14th. According to last year's overdose report, at least 5 kids as old as 14 years old overdosed in Kentucky. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, there are resources for you 24/7. Call this number. That's 1-800-662-4357. They will connect you with the help you need. Crisis intervention and mental health, they are top of mind for correctional facilities across the country, and staffers are getting enhanced training right here in Louisville. That training from the National Institute of Corrections teaches officers to have better active listening skills. They can use them to help inmates identify and understand their emotions.
This is an essential skill set going forward for folks that are in the corrections business. I mean, this part of everyday life and dealings. As we know, we have a systemic problem. I think that the NIC spoke on that. The jails were never designed to be mental hospitals and detox facilities, but we got dealt that hand.
Today wraps up the final day of that week-long training program here in Louisville. Well, it was a heartfelt and emotional reunion. Just yesterday, LMPD officers reunited with a woman they helped save from that mass shooting at Old National Bank. Back in April, Dallas Schwartz, an Old National employee, was one of the first people shot after her colleague opened fire inside that building. 5 of her coworkers were killed, 8 hurt. In a post on LMPD's Facebook page, it said despite bleeding profusely, Schwartz managed to escape into a bathroom stall on the first floor of that bank. She made a makeshift tourniquet using her scarf and called 911, then her family. After the 25-year-old gunman was killed, LMPD searched that bank room by room and eventually found Schwartz hiding in that bathroom stall. LMPD said everyone exchanged phone numbers by the end of that meeting and planned to keep in touch with one another.